I'm joined here by Paul Martin from Rand. Good to see you, Paul.
Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation today. It's actually done this, I think, two or three times before, but it's been a while, so I'm excited to have a conversation with you around Rand and what you guys are building. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Yeah,
Um,
excited.
yeah, could you maybe give everyone a background just on yourself? What kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm Paul. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16. So started my journey in entrepreneurship pretty young. I started with actually drop shipping when drop shipping was not even a thing. So it was a funny moment. Actually, my the legal part of that business was my sister because I was underage at that point. So it's really funny. And then basically start joining crypto. At the moment that I was actually like watching TV, I saw a guy buying a flat in New York with Bitcoins. I was like, how is this possible? Let's get into this. I want to move to New York. It's been my dream always since I was so young. So and then yeah, basically started at that point, did some trading at the beginning. I always loved financials. So for me at that moment was like I discovered crypto. I compare with the financial systems that we were currently using and was like, wow, it's going to really take over the current financial systems because there's a lot of room to build and new things that we can build on top, right? So it was at that moment that yeah, I really clicked. And yeah, so yeah, basically this is the beginning.
And when was that? Were you like 18 at that point, or?
Yeah, I was super young. So I started at that point in early like ending 2017. So ICO's time when a lot of excitement. Then basically we got a lot more chill, but was good because at that moment was a lot about understanding the tech, really like getting into it. Then we got the DeFi summer at the beginning, or when we started seeing the first DeFi protocols building into it, and I was at that point I'd start building yield strategies and several protocols, and at that moment in me and my life and with my friends we wanted to move to New York and live there in a shared flat. And at that moment it was like, wow, I'm producing yield through several protocols. My friends that are not crypto native at that point didn't understood what I was doing and
Mhm.
obviously how I was making money out of it, right? So at that point, I was like, all right, imagine having a mobile app very easy to use where me and my mates can just put money together aside, right? Every month, produce yield on autopilot with this with basically automated yield strategies and several protocols, and then use all the yield at the end of the month or at the end of the year actually to pay for the last month of rent, right? So at that moment, like really clicks to me. Start pitching the idea with a very good friend of mine who started like now is basically he's been engineer since he had like 9 years ago on blockchain. So when was a very few people in the space. So and then basically start building from that point what Ran is right now.
Awesome. So it sounds like the idea came up with you and your friends like wanting to be able to save money. You found this
Yeah.
other way of doing it that was much more effective than it sounds like your friends were doing in the traditional world.
Yeah.
So that started Rand, and then you personally you're somewhat technical, or you're
Yeah.
mostly on
So
the
I
business side?
Yeah, I've been always more in the business and financial side, but
Mhm.
I never been of like for example playing games. I never been like I do sports always, but I never like I always love building, building things and at least designing things that could make sense for use cases, right?
Mhm.
So at that point was all right. This makes sense, but at that I was actually in university at that point, which eventually, I dropped out because I had to put all myself into RAN. Which yeah, which I definitely not regretted.
And you, how big is the team now, and where are you guys mostly
Yeah,
based?
we are 18 people now in the team, and we're getting more and hiring more people. We are like we're working 100% decentralized. We're working all remotely. Most of like I would say 60% of the team actually is around Spain. But then we have
Mhm.
people in Philippines, we have people in UK, we have people in South Africa actually. We have people in Canada too. So yeah, so
Awesome.
we're working with several time zones, which sometimes, as you probably know, sometimes can be challenging, but it's really amazing to have people in your team with different cultures, different point of views on the things, which is yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about crypto. It's got to be the most global industry in the world.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The other day I was thinking, I was talking with a friend, which I want to know your point here. It says, do you think that we will find like a hub, a place for crypto communities, or like as it was Web 2, you have Bay Area. Do you think we will find, or will we end up with a place that more people on the crypto space will go, or we're gonna stay decentralized for sure,
mhm.
like always?
Yeah, I was just talking to Nicholas from our team about this because he was talking about the sovereign individual book, and
Yeah,
that's what we were kind of discussing. Is it's becoming like the countries are actually going to be competing for our business as citizens. So, like we're already starting to see this in places like Singapore and Malta. I just moved to Puerto Rico.
yeah.
There's different hubs popping up, so there probably will be kind of multiple hubs, maybe one or two in each part of the world. But yeah, it's becoming it's beginning to flip a little bit where we have more of the freedom to choose where we want to go, and then these countries are going to shape policy based on attracting people. So
Yeah,
we'll
you
see
see a
how
lot
that
of
shapes
people
out.
like 1 week living in one place, another week living
Yeah,
in the other place, because they are not attached at all to the place. They can
yeah,
build whatever when they want. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so I guess let's get into a little bit more detail on Rand. So you walked us through the background of how this came up. So maybe go a little bit deeper on the problems you guys are trying to solve and what the product is looking like.
yeah. So we actually what we want to do is help people pay for their recurring expenses or their expenses using DeFi and using crypto on the back end, but really making a product that is used or is able to be used for everyone, not just crypto people, so people also from the mainstream. So our focus is basically we have two main problems that we want to like go into it, which is all the people I hate getting their accounts drained for those recurring expenses, such as Netflix, or Spotify, or Amazon, for example, that you can pay them, but it hates the moment you check out your bank account and you see that your account is getting drained for all these small things. And then the other one that we were facing is that we know that there are some expenses that you have no chance of paying them, like of paying off those ones. So we want to bring people the chance of being able to pay off these larger expenses that with their current capital they are not able to pay them, right? So basically we built two different products, like two main features in the app, which is our private vaults and our public vaults. Our private vaults are attached to this first things that I said, where you can basically create your own vault or with the people that you know or you love. You can just put side income there or put savings there. We produce yield for you on autopilot. One example would be, on with several strategies on Akala using aUSD. So, and then what we do is that we produce the yield, and then you can basically create your own digital debit card that is linked to that specific vault, and then you can pay your Netflix, you can pay your Spotify, you can pay your whatever you want to do in the sort that you want with that yield that you created, right? So what we see now that we're super excited with it is the social component of it, of the private vaults, which is that we know that 26% of Netflix account are shared accounts. So imagine that we basically are creating the vehicle that you're going to be using to pay the shared account, right? So before you're creating the shared account in Netflix, you're going to create the share vault that all these you don't need any longer, for example, to use $1,000 of your savings to pay your Netflix with a yield. You just need half of it because you're sharing with a person, with your friend, for example. So you can maximize your capital 2 times more, right? And that is when it comes the social effect that is really cool. That is, as more people you bring, the more you can maximize your capital. And then on the public vault sides, what we do is basically we produce yield in the same way. So we use the same strategies, but what we do is that everybody in the platform can just go to our public vault, and then we produce yield for it. We produce yield, and at the end of the week, we take all the yield and we give it away to a lot of different random winners. So if you can log $1,000, for example, and be able to win 10,000, right, in the future. So you have always the chance of paying off these bigger things that right now you don't have the capital to pay them, right?
Okay, makes sense. So I'll just kind of recap that to make sure I'm understanding. So you are basically trying to tackle two problems. It's like recurring expenses and then larger expenses. You'll have private vaults for, can I even do one on my own, like as a single
Yeah,
person?
you can, yeah,
Okay.
you can do just your own. Like
Yeah,
if you
so
want to just save, or like even
yeah,
also you can create a vault for the purpose of save also, not to spend it. You
yeah.
can also use it for save.
Okay. So private vaults for either myself or a group of people who I most likely know or have a relationship with. And that can be used for just generating yield like together. And then that can even be put to use in even connecting that vault to, for example, like a Netflix payment account. And then
Yeah,
that will facilitate that just like a debit card would.
yeah.
And then public vaults, this is similar to like, is it a no loss type of a situation where you can contribute? If you win, you win this like bigger prize, but if you don't win, you get your
Yeah,
contribution back,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's always a no loss. So you deposit the amount of money that you want, then this amount of money have a chance of winning depending on the overall money that there's on the vault. And then if you don't win 1 week, you can withdraw, at any time you want. So you can deposit and withdraw from the vault when you want, right? The longer that you lock up your funds, the more chance of winning that you have on those vaults, right? And also,
Cool.
apart from that, we have like the special part of it, which is that we basically have our own token module and ecosystem around the token, which is that one of the key features that we want to boost is that we will have a special public vault, whereas we will be, doing all the giveaways of the most special things. So just cars, trips, everything paid, and all these things that are super exciting. So that's where we want to reward all our community that help on and owns a part of the token on of the network, so we can basically bring them all the special things in those special community vaults.
So would that be staking, or how would you get access to
Yeah,
those?
so in the same way that you deposit stable coins on the regular public vault, you would deposit Rand tokens into the special public vault, where
I
and,
see.
and then have the chance of winning those things.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure that'll get you some viral posts out there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Like it's pretty exciting because I know, people love prizes. People love having the chance of winning things that they do not think that they can win. So we want to bring this in a way that if they don't win, they do not lose, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so it sounds like this is going to be definitely like initially a consumer facing application. Could you talk a little bit about how you guys plan on going to market? Like, would this be a web app? Would this be a mobile app that people
Yeah,
could
so
use? So,
it's a mobile app that we're launching first on Europe. Then we want to bring, like, we're actually launching everywhere, but the onboarding from the fiat side, it's going to be first enabled in Europe, and then we're going to be moving this fiat onboarding to South America and to Asia. And then that's basically the roadmap on this. We plan a year where we onboard users, we tested out things, and then we plan when we want to start scaling. Probably it's going to be next year. But yeah, we're pretty excited to see, because we have done a lot of testing with users, with potential users and community members, and we're excited to see how people want this easy mobile app that they can use all that you can basically get exposure to all these DeFi things, but in a very easy way, and then spend it by themselves or with their friends, right?
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So Europe first, maybe South America and Asia. And then could could you dig in a little bit more on where the yield or how the yield is kind of allocated? So is there some more aspect of like governance where the community would vote on like how to distribute funds into different yield strategies, or is that something operated by you guys as a company, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So at the beginning, it's going to be operate for us. So the first month, and we're going to be enable, the governance model to help us, like all the community in all the strategies that we can build. So we are slightly different in comparison, like with a lot more DeFi protocols where you have one token, then a set of the strategies for that token, and then you have a list of tokens. You want to like basically simplify all this process in a way that you have basically a deposit and withdraw. It's going to be always a stable coin. It's going to be US dollar peg stable coins or euro peg stable coins, and we want to focus on just these things to basically allow people like to deposit withdraw very easy. But then on the back end, we are not just focusing on the typical borrowing and lending money markets or dexes. We're also like doing this, but also we're doing like automated option vaults, and we're like really giving exposure to the funds and to the capital to more things that the regular DeFi money markets, right?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that kind of makes me think about your tech stack. So it sounds like you'll have yield coming from potentially different applications on different chains. So could you talk about maybe like the technical architecture of Rand and like where you guys plan on launching?
Yeah, so we basically have two special, like I would separate basically our set of a smart contract in two ways, which are the ones that are part of the yield aggregator, so the ones that produce the yield, and then there's the ones that take care of the overall logic and of the basically to make sure that we make sure that we link all the transactions of the users with the yield that we produce, right? So all the contracts that produce the yield, basically what we do is that we create sub vaults on every chain that we decide. One case could be Akala, Moonbeam also we're integrating with Terra and on Ethereum to basically be able to create vaults there on several chains and get exposure from different money markets on different chains. And then basically we record all the different transactions and yield produce in another sort of a smart contracts that will link with all the sub vaults in those different chains, right?
Okay, so it's kind of aggregating yield from multiple pools and money markets on different chains.
Yeah, but this is slightly different because we are able to aggregate yield from multi-chain, like from in a multi-chain way, but without crossing the assets. Using almost at the very like few points we use bridges because we're able to record the transactions and have accountability of the yield and all the deposits that we have from the other sort of the smart contracts that are linked that were backend with the other contracts with the contracts that produce the yield, right? Does it make sense?
Let me ask a couple of questions then. So you'll have yield on multiple chains without needing to send the token, like without a bridge, basically. So are you just communicating back like how much each yield has or each vault has earned?
Yeah. So the thing is that there's we want to like mitigate as much as possible the risk on bridges if you really want to move a lot of assets. So in the way of doing this is that we have our core backend like integrated between the smart contracts that executes the yield and the smart contracts that basically record all the transactions. So what you do is basically there's one smart contract that record all the accountability for the ones that are producing the yield. So this allows us to tell you, all right, we're producing a 10% over all the different sub vaults that we have in several chains. But there's going to be vaults that's going to be producing a 10%. There's going to be vaults that's going to be producing a 7%. But we know that the overall one, it's a 10%, like in total,
Average, yeah.
Yeah, average, exactly.
Okay, that's cool. Makes sense. Last time we talked, you were telling me about some conversations you've had with users and some of the insights you got around how people think about expenses versus I think it
Yeah.
was expenses versus income. That was really interesting. If you could tell
Yeah,
people
so
about that.
it was very interesting, like to talk with our users, talk with potential users, and we realized that at the beginning of Rand, we were always aiming to, all right, we're producing at this amount of yield, and with this amount of yield, you can use it for whatever reason you prefer, right? But when you communicate this message to people, you realize that the overall people or mainstream people that are not crypto native or that don't has a financial background really struggle to visualize themselves using yield on the long run, or how compound interest can really help them on the long run, right? But they can easily visualize themselves not paying for something that they already pay, right? So they can easily visualize themselves opening their wallet or bank account and seeing, all right, there's Netflix is not charging me anymore, but I'm still watching Netflix, right? So they can easily visualize them doing this, but they struggle visualizing themselves. All right, I put this amount of money here, so I'm going to be producing this amount, and with this amount I can do X, Y, Z, right?
So people would rather not lose money than
100%. Yeah,
earn
yeah,
interest.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, there's a book that I can't remember the name now, but it goes all around this, like how you really care about not losing 500 rather than winning 500, right? Winning 500 is good, it's cool, but losing 500 is the really what you don't want to do, right? So that's our approach, right? To help you that you have $5,000 in Rand. At the end of the year, you will have this still $5,000, but all these things will be paid, right?
Makes sense. It's really interesting. I guess a couple last questions. So what led you to the Polkadot ecosystem and building with Substrate and
Yeah.
Kala
So
Moonbeam?
so probably I would say that I was so fascinated on the first, obviously, on the scalability that it has to build several chains that all share a part of consensus. And then the thing is that what I've seen is that, right, it makes a lot of sense to create blockchains which are just basically distributed database that they work specifically for what you need, right? So that you don't have a general purpose chain, that you have in a specific purpose chain for a sort of or a part of the industry that it is building, and specifically, for example, you guys DeFi, right? Which makes total sense. As a builder, it makes total sense. It's like, okay, I have more tools that I would have on other chains, directly integrating on the chain itself.
Yep. Awesome. And yeah, I know one of your teammates is pretty deep in Substrate as well, so that's good that he had that experience.
Yeah.
To,
So Alex, which is teammate and kind of co-founder since the beginning. So he's basically been building things on Substrate for a while, and actually been building things around blockchain for 9 years, right? So so he really knows all the tech side pretty well. So yeah, excited. It was very cool to have him since the beginning, because it was very time efficient, I would say, in terms of deciding how to implement things.
Yeah, it's been cool watching you guys grow. I think I met Alex like over 2 years ago with the Polkadot Ambassador program, and then
I
remember like the first call we had together, but that was probably over a year ago too, about Rand and you guys working together. So it's really cool to watch.
It's so crazy how everything, how fast this ecosystem grows, how every day is so you really spend your 100% every day. It's like you look and it just passed 1 year, but that year was too many, a lot of things happened in that year. And I think you can easily agree on this, but I think it changed everything a lot. since the first call that we had with you
Yeah,
until now. Like things change a lot, grow a lot. It was so cool to see like the team
yeah,
growing and the idea really evolving.
yeah. It's awesome to see. So I guess we can. I wanted to end with just how can people get involved? You mentioned earlier that you're potentially hiring, and where should people follow for more information on your launch? And I know definitely the Acala team will be helping push out information around your launch on Acala. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
we're gonna be soft launching basically now the app very soon. So we're gonna like I encourage people to follow us on the socials, Twitter and Telegram, more specifically, which was the ones that we use more, and basically stay tuned on this because we're soft launching the app very soon with our community members, and then once we feel comfortable. Like everyone is enjoying the during the soft launch. It's when we're gonna open the major launch to everybody.
okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll put your social links in the comments on YouTube, and then for people watching, it's the Twitter is at Rand Network, RAND Network. And
Yep.
then what's your Twitter? Can people follow you there too?
Yeah, sure. So it's Pol Martin with I think it's Pol Martin. That's it.
Oh yeah, Paul Pol Martin underscore looks like.
Yeah.
I've got a. I had to go for an underscore on mine too, unfortunately. Cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun learning more about you
Yeah.
guys and telling the story. So yeah, people, thanks for listening, and Paul, thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.